In the year 1818, the famous writer Mary Shelley wrote the story of Frankenstein, a tale of a creature built from parts of human bodies, but she could not complete the story fully, leaving it unfinished before her death. Now, even after death, Mary wants to finish that incomplete story. Now the story moves to the year 1936 in the city of Chicago. A girl named Ida is at a party, but she is not happy at all. Her friends force her to kiss a girl and eat an oyster, but none of this suits her and she vomits. In that weak moment, suddenly a strange jolt goes through her body, and then she hears Mary's voice in her mind. With another strong jolt, Mary takes over her body. Now Ida's voice changes and she starts speaking with an English accent. Everyone is shocked. Suddenly, Ida climbs onto a table, says strange things, and starts flirting with a man. When people try to calm her down, she starts shouting loudly. Her friends remind her that a dangerous crime boss named Lupino is also present there, but Ida points her finger at him and says, "The real monster is this one." Then she starts saying strange things about the memories of dead people. Now Lupino gets angry and orders his men, James and Clyde, to take her outside. The two drag Ida out, but she does not stop shouting. As soon as they get outside, James slaps her, but Ida slaps him back. Then James hits her again and Clyde steps in to separate them. But Ida's strange behavior continues, and annoyed by this, Clyde also slaps her. Then Ida mocks James, which makes him so angry that he punches her hard. Now Clyde begins to think that Ida is possessed. He tells James, "Go and fetch a doctor or a priest." But still under Mary's control, Ida says a shocking thing. The next part of the Frankenstein story is coming, and many truths will be revealed. Now Clyde becomes completely terrified, and in his anger, he pushes Ida down the stairs. Ida falls badly, breaks her leg, and upon hitting the bottom, dies on the spot. The next day, a strange man comes to Dr. Cornelia, claiming to be the creature from Mary's story. At first, Cornelia thinks it is a joke, but when she tells him to remove his hat and scarf, she is stunned to see his truly terrifying face. In fear, Cornelia tries to run away, but the man, Frank, stops her. He explains, "I am the one who has been writing you letters for the past several months." Now Cornelia calms down a little and agrees to meet with him. She shakes his hand and begins to examine his body carefully. She is very impressed by his construction. Frank tells her that he has been following Cornelia's work, especially her research on reanimation, which is bringing dead bodies back to life. And now, he wants Cornelia to create a bride for him. Just then, Cornelia's assistant, Greta, comes in and screams loudly when she sees Frank, then runs away in fear. After this, Frank tells his story of loneliness, and Cornelia feels pity for him. She explains that he should stay here, and together they will find a solution to this problem. In the evening, Frank goes to a theater where he is watching a film starring his favorite actor, Ronnie. As soon as a romantic scene comes on, Frank starts repeating the dialogue, singing along with the song, and even copying the dance steps. People look at him strangely, and a man scolds him to be quiet. Only then does he calm down. Then he begins to imagine himself as part of that film. The next day, when Frank tells Cornelia that to create his bride, he will have to dig up a corpse from a grave and cut it into pieces, Cornelia panics. She mocks the idea, but Frank gets angry. He shouts, "When we shook hands, that was the first time anyone had ever touched me." The pain is clear in his eyes. He says, "I thought you were a mad scientist. Don't you have any curiosity at all?" Cornelia laughs and finally agrees to help him. That night, they go to a cemetery and dig up a freshly buried corpse. When they return to the lab, Frank accidentally knocks over a vase. Hearing the noise, Greta wakes up and sees them with the corpse. In the lab, Cornelia prepares the machines and Frank looks at the body, which is actually Ida. He suddenly becomes suspicious, saying, "This girl is very beautiful. Not for me." He says, "Maybe we should do this work tomorrow." But just then, Greta tries to peek in. Cornelia immediately pushes her out and locks the door. Now she says clearly, "Either now or never." Ida is connected to the machines. Cornelia turns the switch and Frank starts trembling with nervousness. Cornelia steadies him. Together, they pull the final lever. There is a flash of bright electricity. The machines begin to crackle and a glowing sphere of energy enters Ida's body. With a loud groan, Ida comes back to life. Ida coughs and gets up, mumbling, "I want to go home." She tries to stand but immediately falls. Frank wants to help her, but Ida does not let him touch her. Cornelia notices that her leg is broken, but Ida says, "I don't feel any pain." She does not remember anything. Frank says, maybe she had an accident. They convince her to stay there for the night. While Frank is watching a film, Cornelia puts a brace on Ida's leg. Ida asks, "Who is this Frank?" Cornelia answers, "You are his bride." Ida immediately refuses, "I don't even remember him." Sometime later, Ida has a strange dream. She finds herself by a window and hears Mary's voice saying, "You are also a monster." Ida asks for help, but Mary refuses. Suddenly, Ida wakes up in the lab. Frank is sleeping on the floor. She blows on his face to wake him, but Frank gets scared and punches her. Then he immediately apologizes and, to lighten the mood, picks up an umbrella and does the dance from the film. In the morning, Ida refuses to eat anything. Cornelia offers her clothes, cleaning, everything, but Ida refuses everything and starts throwing things in anger, saying, "I just want to leave here." When the door does not open, Ida and Frank escape through the window. They go to the theater and then to a club. At the club, Ida dances in a strange way. She invites Frank as well, but he prefers to sit and watch from a distance. Some people dance with Ida, but soon they start harassing her. Ida gets scared and pushes them, but they do not stop. Then Frank comes and rescues her, taking her outside. Outside, the thugs chase them, hit Frank, and grab Ida. Now Frank's anger explodes. He slams one man's head against the wall repeatedly until he dies. He knocks another to the ground and crushes his head. Just then, a camera flash goes off. Someone is taking their pictures, but that person runs away. Police sirens are heard, and they run back to the lab. Frank says, "You go away. I don't want to get you into trouble." But Ida says, "Where is my home anyway?" And she holds his hand and runs away with him. In a new dream, Ida sees herself as a head trapped in a jar. Mary teases her, "You don't even remember your own name." Then Frank wakes her up. They are hiding on a moving train. The train stops, and the police are searching for them. They hide. Ida starts singing, and a policeman hears her. He sees Frank, gets scared, and tries to shoot. But Ida pushes him off the train, and he falls onto the tracks and dies. As morning arrives, Detective Jake and his assistant Muna are assigned the case of the bodies found outside the club. They also receive some photographs and information. They learn that Frank went to the theater every day and that Ida was known as a girl who would even confront a dangerous crime boss. Meanwhile, after a long journey, Frank and Ida finally reach New York. Frank jumps into a fountain to collect coins so they have money for expenses. Then they hide in an empty, abandoned building. There, Ida finds a newspaper with a story about Frank. She sees that people are calling her Frank's bride, so she falls into thought wondering, "What is my real name?" Frank tells her, "Your name is Penelope Rogers." But Ida smiles and says, "From now on, I am Penelope Frankenstein because I am your bride." After this, suddenly Ida brings up intimacy and starts touching Frank. But Frank becomes uncomfortable. He immediately stops her, and the atmosphere becomes a bit awkward. The next day, Jake and Muna find another body near the train tracks. The local police do not believe that all of this is the work of the same monster couple, because someone would have recognized such strange-looking people. But then Muna finds a newspaper article about Ronnie on the ground. She shows it to Jake, and they decide that they now need to go to New York. Meanwhile, Ida asks Frank again, "How were we before? How was everything between us?" Frank lies and says, "Everything was very good." Ida then asks, "That policeman, he is okay, right?" Frank does not tell her the truth. He says, "Yes, he is fine," because he does not want Ida to feel the burden of anyone's death. But then Frank remembers that he has lost his newspaper somewhere. He panics and starts having an anxiety attack. To calm himself, he says, "I need to watch a movie." At the theater, Jake and Muna are already waiting for them. Frank steals a pretzel from a cart and tells Ida, "This is your favorite." He wants to watch the same Ronnie film again, but Ida is now bored. She drags Frank to another film, and because of this, the police do not see them. During the film, Ida notices a couple sitting in front of her who are being intimate in public. The girl is clearly uncomfortable. Seeing this, Ida gets angry. She attacks the boy and explains the meaning of consent to him. Just then, the boy sees their faces and shouts, "These are the same monsters!" Panic spreads throughout the theater. Frank immediately grabs Ida and takes her outside. Outside, a crowd starts chasing them. They run, but a police car blocks their way. They enter a building, go through the kitchen, and end up at a fancy party. There, they pick up trays and pretend to be waiters, while also eating food. Then Frank spots Ronnie, his favorite actor. He immediately goes to him and says, "20 years ago you smiled at me. That is the only reason I have been alive." But Ronnie brushes it off as a joke and goes back to his friends. Seeing this, Frank breaks down inside. In anger, he drops his tray and starts dancing like in the film. Ida also starts dancing with him. And then Mary's spirit influences the crowd, and the whole hall turns into a strange, crazy dance. People start dancing uncontrollably, and the atmosphere becomes completely chaotic. Just then, the police enter the party. Ida and Jake come face to face, and they recognize each other. A policeman punches Frank. Frank immediately strikes back and knocks the gun out of his hand. The police surround him. But then Ida picks up the gun and forces everyone to step back. She aims at Ronnie and says, "Let him go or I will kill him." Then she shouts the truth. Lupino and the police work together to kill women and no one gets justice. As a policeman tries to approach from behind, Ida panics and fires the gun. Taking advantage of the moment, Frank brings down a chandelier. The whole hall fills with darkness and screams, and they both escape. Outside, Ida is sad, saying, "I killed a man." But Frank says, "This is what we do to survive." They begin to kiss, and then Jake appears in front of them, but he cannot bring himself to shoot Ida. They laugh at him and run away again. Sometime later, the police reach the empty building, but Frank and Ida are not there. They are hiding in a barn, where they finally come close to each other. After this, they steal a car and leave the city. In the next town, they start living openly. They watch movies, get tattoos, and collect coins from fountains to raise money. Their life becomes a strange but free journey. Meanwhile, Cornelia sees them on TV. Through Ida's words, she has become the face of a revolution. Women across the country start wearing makeup like hers and begin to protest. The whole atmosphere starts turning into a rebellion. This news reaches Lupino. He angrily scolds James and Clyde. "Why didn't you do the job properly?" James swears, "We killed her." But Lupino does not believe him. Without thinking, he shoots James in the head. Then he looks at Clyde and says, "This time, bring Ida finished and bring her tongue to me." Then it is revealed that he already has several jars filled with the tongues of his female victims, and now Ida has become his next target. Sometime later, Muna tells Jake that the two creatures were last seen in Fredonia. Before moving on, Muna asks a question. Why did you react to Ida like you already knew her? But Jake pretends not to know and avoids telling her anything. Then Muna shows a map. By connecting all the places where they were seen, she understands these people are going to locations from Ronnie's films. And then she guesses, now they will go to Niagara Falls. Meanwhile, Frank and Ida really are heading toward Niagara Falls. Frank tells her about the film associated with that place. And when Ida asks him about their engagement, Frank lies and creates a beautiful story as if his proposal was very perfect and romantic. Just then, a police car suddenly starts chasing them. Ida stops the car and Frank covers his face with a scarf. When the policeman approaches, Ida says, "This is my sick uncle." But she does not have any papers, so the policeman tells her to get out of the car. He starts searching her, but slowly he begins to cross the line, touching her inappropriately and saying dirty things. As he gets closer, Frank shoots him from inside the window. After this, Ida pounces on the policeman and starts ripping out his tongue. Just then, another policeman comes out and shoots Ida in the shoulder, but Frank immediately shoots him in the head and kills him. Ida completely rips out the first policeman's tongue and also picks up his gun. Then they both run toward the forest. By evening, they reach another town and hide in an empty building. Meanwhile, the detectives and Clyde are also searching for them in the same town. Ida begins to break down inside. She regrets what she has done, and she is tired of Mary, who keeps pushing her toward madness. In anger, Ida goes outside and fires a gun into the sky. Hearing the sound, Clyde arrives there, but Ida holds him at gunpoint. Clyde says, "I want to help you. I know you were forced." He confesses his sins and asks for forgiveness. Just then, Muna also arrives there and shoots Frank. Clyde calls Ida by her real name, but Ida angrily shoots him too, shouting, "You are a corrupt policeman! You played dirty games with your witnesses!" Then she takes the wounded Frank and runs away. Sometime later, police sirens start blaring. They steal a new car and drive away. On the road, Frank asks, "Who was that man?" But Ida says, "I don't remember anything." The next morning, Muna learns the truth from Clyde, and Clyde breaks down. He tells her that Ida was one of the women who was gathering evidence against Lupino. But when the case was closed, Ida came to him in anger and begged him to continue the case. But Clyde was a corrupt policeman. He did not help her. Slowly, all the other girls were killed and their tongues were cut out. In regret, Clyde gives his badge to Muna and decides to quit his job. A reporter secretly listens to their entire conversation. Meanwhile, in the middle of the road, Ida stops the car because Frank's condition is getting worse. He cannot breathe properly and his wound is continuously bleeding. Ida decides, "I know where to take him." Sometime later, news comes that they have been seen at a gas station near Indiana. In the evening, the police are questioning people there, but Muna goes into a nearby theater. Just then, Frank and Ida also arrive there. But this time Frank tells her the truth. "I did not know you before. I dug you up from a grave and brought you back to life." Hearing this, Ida's heart breaks. She goes outside and starts vomiting. Frank tries to explain, "We can start a new life." But Ida no longer considers herself Ida. She says, "I am just the bride." Frank declares his love for her and proposes to her. Just then, Muna and a reporter come close. Ida clearly refuses, saying, "I am no one's bride." Frank starts laughing. And then, bang! The reporter shoots him in the head. Frank falls and dies right there. Ida screams. In pain and anger, she fires her gun wildly. Then she puts Frank's body in the car and drives away. The police chase her. Bullets fly everywhere. Ida drives at full speed, then suddenly turns off the lights, pulls off the road, and hides in the grass. Sometime later, she stops the car and looks at Frank. He is truly dead now. Ida breaks down. Then Mary's voice echoes again. "You have now become the bride completely." A few hours later, Ida reaches Cornelia's institute and tells her, "Bring him back to life." Muna also follows her there, and a reporter secretly comes behind them. Cornelia says, "I cannot bring him back." But Ida points a gun at her and says, "I love him." Cornelia tells her story. She also brought her husband back to life, but without his memories, he became strange, and she had to kill him. Just then, the reporter takes the chance and shoots Ida. At the same time, the police also enter and start shooting. Cornelia screams. Ida is hit by a hail of bullets, and finally, she falls on top of Frank and dies. Muna repeatedly shouts to stop the police, and only then do the bullets stop. After this, Muna orders the police, "Catch that reporter!" She shows Clyde's badge to prove her authority. The police chase him. Inside, Cornelia is left alone. Greta says, "This is like a Romeo and Juliet story." But Cornelia does not stop. Outside, the police catch the reporter. And at that same moment, electricity begins to flash on the roof of the institute. Inside, Frank and Ida, lying on the table, slowly begin to move again, and they hold each other's hands. Meanwhile, Clyde hands over Lupino to those rebellious women, who are now finally going to take their revenge. So friends, I hope you liked this video. If you liked the video, then like, share, and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video. Till then, bye.